Good evening from New York. The game of chicken relies on one fundamental premise. Neither party wants to crash the car. If that is not true of both parties, then it's not a game of chicken. It's just a head-on collision. Speaker Boehner, representing House Republicans in the negotiations to prevent a government shutdown, was applauded by House Republicans when he raised the possibility of shutting down the government last night. That's why the meeting between Boehner, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and President Obama this morning did not result in a compromise that will prevent a government shutdown. Boehner clearly is not empowered to agree to a compromise because the Speaker cannot speak for his caucus, which includes the Tea Party. The president made a surprise appearance in the White House briefing room today, preempting John Boehner's scheduled 2 p.m. news conference on Capitol Hill. The president wanted the American people to know just how impossible it is to deal with Boehner and put responsibility for a government shutdown in Republican hands.
What we've been able to do is to present to the House Republicans a budget framework that would cut the same amount of spending as Speaker Boehner and Chairman Rogers originally proposed. Their original proposal for how much would be cut. We are now closer than we have ever been to getting an agreement. There's no reason why we should not get an agreement. As I said before, we have now matched the number that the Speaker originally sought.
Then Speaker Boehner came out and held an abbreviated 4-minute news conference in which he rejected the idea that President Obama had just suggested, which is that the Republicans have already won.
They'd like to insist that 33 is the top number and want to use smoke and mirrors in order to get there. That is not acceptable to our members, and we will not agree to it. And we did not agree to it. We're going to continue to fight for the largest cuts possible, and including the policy riders that we passed in H.R. 1.
Still, President Obama tried to show Boehner a way out.
We'll have time to have a long discussion about next year's budget, as well as the long-term debt and deficit issues, where we're going to have some very tough negotiations. Part of the reason that debate's going to be important is because that's where 88% of the budget is. What we're spending weeks and weeks and weeks arguing about is actually only 12% of the budget, and is not going to significantly dent the deficit or the debt. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation. But right now we've got some business in front of us that needs to be done.
Joining me now is Congressman Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, the ranking member of the House Budget Committee. Thanks for joining us tonight, Congressman.
Good to be with you, Lawrence.
Congressman, I've never seen a negotiation like this. The Democrats, the president, in effect, have gone all the way to the Republicans' first number, but that's not good enough. The Republicans have moved on to an even more extreme position. This is already a Republican win. If Boehner were to just stop and say, okay, to whatever President Obama has said today, where do we go from here? What more will the Republicans win as they hold out?
Well, you identified the problem, Lawrence. Speaker Boehner no longer has his hands on the steering wheel. I mean, this car is being driven by the Tea Party wing of the Republican Party in the House, and they are drag racing with the American budget and saying that if they don't get 100% of what they want, they're going to shut down the government. And even when you present them with the original proposal that their own speaker made, he said, let's cut $32 billion. The president has said, let's cut $33 billion. They say, forget it, not enough. And even more, they want to be able to pick the particular cuts that are made. They would prefer to cut education, for example, rather than eliminate subsidies for the oil industry. They prefer to cut the cancer research at NIH rather than get rid of agriculture subsidies for wealthy farmers. So not only do they want to dictate the overall amount, they want to dictate exactly how those cuts are done, even though a cut to education and a cut to the oil subsidies has the same impact on the deficit, but it doesn't accomplish the ideological and social agenda they want to pursue through the budget.
Congressman, clearly the president is trying to put the responsibility for any kind of government shutdown on Republicans. John Boehner seems to at least privately fear that the president has succeeded in doing that. We have reports indicating that Speaker Boehner has told his caucus that he believes if they shut down the government, Republicans will get hit with the responsibility for that. Are the Democrats confident that if there is to be a government shutdown, that responsibility does rest with the majority party in the House of Representatives?
Well, what we can only hope is that the American people are following this debate closely, that they're actually watching the back and forth, because I think any fair-minded person would conclude that the Democrats and the president have already gone, as you indicated, a long way toward the Republican position. In fact, so far that they've exceeded the proposal that the Speaker of the House himself made as the Republican position. But essentially, the Speaker of the House has been swept aside, and it's been a total takeover by the Tea Party. And this does not bode well for how we're going to deal with other big issues that are coming up, like making sure that the United States makes good on the full faith and credit of the United States government, that we don't default on our debts, which would have a cataclysmic impact on the economy. And then it doesn't bode well for trying to get together next year's budget, which is really the main event when we're dealing with everything that's on the table.
Well, let's go to the main event. The chairman of your committee, the Budget Committee, Paul Ryan, introduced his budget for next year with future budgetary implications for the next 10 years, the most dramatic cutback of the social safety net that this country has ever seen. Let's listen to what Congressman Ryan had to say about that today.
We propose to convert it to a system for younger people that is identical to the system I have as a member of Congress and all federal workers enjoy. It's choice, it's competition, it's protection. We propose that we support people more if they're low income, more as they get sick, and wealthy seniors don't get as much support. And doing it that way fixes the problem, saves Medicare.
Congressman, does it save Medicare, or does it simply abolish Medicare as we know it and put in a system that subsidizes private insurance companies to make even more profits in the system?
Lawrence, that statement made by Paul Ryan reminds me of the twisted comment that was made many years ago that you have to destroy the village in order to save it. Only in Orwellian world would what they're doing be described as helping Medicare. Let's be very clear. What they do is end the Medicare guarantee for seniors. Seniors would be required to go out into the private insurance market and fight for their own while you have rapidly rising health care costs. And what the proposal does is switch the entire risk and burden of those rapidly rising health care costs to the seniors. And by the way, if you get a voucher or premium support, whatever you want to call it, and it's not enough to purchase the benefits that you need, tough luck. If your doctor is not on the plan being offered by the insurance company, tough luck. This is rationing by income. It's eliminating a choice of doctors unless they happen to be on the plan the insurance company offers. And it's a bonanza for the insurance industry. All of a sudden, the insurance industry is going to be able to get all the taxpayer dollars through the Medicare system. While that has been a system that has been a very efficiently run program, all of a sudden they're going to get a big piece of the action. So it's very clear. Seniors are the big losers. The health insurance industry would be the big winner.
I don't see any chance of this thing actually passing. Certainly can't get through the United States Senate, but we're going to see a lot as this story continues to develop. Congressman Chris Van Hollen, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks. Thank you, Lawrence.